I'm Jim Collison, and this is the Clifton Strengths Podcast Season 2, recorded on November 14th, 2022. In this Clifton Strengths podcast series, we'll look at the Clifton Strengths for Leaders report, one theme at a time, and today's theme is input. If you're listening live and you don't see the chat room, there's a link to it right above me there. Or if you're listening after the fact and you have questions, you can always send me an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jaclynn Robinson is our host today. She works as a Gallup Learning and Development Consultant. And join me for Season 1 of the Clifton Strengths podcast, where we looked at the book, Well-Being at Work. For each theme, Jaclynn, welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's dive into input. If we could, give us a quick theme definition for that.
I think I can do that for us. So those with input have a need to collect and archive. You may be the person that accumulates a lot of information, ideas, artifacts, or even relationships, if this is you.
Why do we giggle when we say that? What's the funny part about
it.
relationships that makes us giggle? We collect people.
Woo gets that too, don't they?
Yeah,
Woo and input are like, we like people.
We collect. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes. It all depends, right? What's the power of this theme? What's the power of this theme in a leadership role?
Well, someone with this, or I should say a leader that has this high, is likely to be viewed as a trusted advisor and a credible resource to other people. They tend to gather and review information from a number of different sources and then encourage an environment of knowledge sharing as well.
I think in this era of DEI, this is really, really important. I mean, it's always been important, but I think it's really, really important from an input standpoint because there's so many resources being put out there that are available. I think somebody with high input you could all be helping us out as we're trying to piece all these things together. And I've always appreciated, I'll talk about this here in a minute, the speed at which this information could come back.
Yes.
I get this question the most. People ask me if I have input because I'm so quick. And no, I just maximize the lists. I just have giant lists of things that I go grab and bring them in. And that's maybe a form of input, but I don't naturally lean that way. If you're leading others, how can others benefit from this theme?
A leader with this theme has a curiosity for what others want to learn or develop, and then they can share resources and opportunities that would best serve that individual. And I think they'd also be really open to information and resources that person is, interested in investing in for themselves. So it is just that I love how open that door is of knowledge sharing. And I also see it as one that's really great with development. We talked about Learner last week and how they can be optimal just naturally at thinking about the learning and development of other people. And I think this is another one of those themes that would love to just encourage people to go out there and spread their wings and get resources to support them in that process.
We've spent some seasons thinking about this, going from me to we on these themes. And I think that's what you're talking about here, is turning that natural process of gathering things, helpful things for me. How, from a team perspective, how do I change that into helpful things for others, right?
Yes.
How can I be thinking when I'm somewhere else and I see something, that might be useful for, this person on my team, and in bringing that in.
Yes.
When we think about, and I didn't prep you for this question, but it just came to mind, when we think about the 4 needs of followers, right? Where do you think this helps in that with those 4 needs? Where do you think this fits in with that and helping meet one or maybe a multiple number of those needs?
Oh, I could definitely see trust, because they are so transparent with knowledge and resources, and they're interested in gathering more information and resources. So I think that level of transparency can build trust and rapport with individuals. And then the stability piece, because of having the resources at hand, they can help other people see that it's been thought through, or they are well resourced in whatever that initiative is or direction they want to move. I think they can also offer hope in that regard because they've thought it through and have resources and are more than happy to share out what those resources are to help people see what that North Star is for the team or organization. And then going back to me and week, that compassion is, if I think about one-on-ones or team meetings, what does their team or what does that individual need from them so they can be at their best and thrive?
Yeah.
Whether that's development, direction, resources. And so it shows that sense of care because they care about that individual. They care that they have enough information. They care about their development plan.
Yeah.
That's a good
Uh,
question.
yeah. No, I think that's
Yeah.
maybe one we should probably add in on a regular basis. We won't.
No.
It'll come up from time to time. It was just one of those, how does this, I think oftentimes we
Mhm.
think of the collection or archiving, like you mentioned in the definition, as being this collecting thing, but collecting for a reason, right?
Mhm.
And in that, and then as a leader with the needs of followers, really important. How am I using this in a way that's benefiting my followers, right?
Mhm.
And so it just gives us an opportunity to think from the me to we on that one. Well, one of the areas, whether as a leader you have it or those on your team that you're managing have it high. I love this idea of this leaning into it to focus on their natural inquisitiveness.
Mhm.
Uh, it's not a word I would normally use, but I pulled it from one of our reports. Their natural inquisitiveness by asking them to study a topic that's important for your organization. And I alluded to this just a second ago, but
Yes.
how important is right now that we're spending some time. We might often think of analytical or intellection, which we just covered, of doing this, but input, I hadn't thought of that before. Turning them loose on resources, right? To say, hey, what are some
Me
great
either.
things out there we could use for the organization? What would you add to that?
I I think that's such a great idea. I would even add, what other people, going back to how they can sometimes collect relationships, what other people might they want to build into that study session or prep session that are
Mhm.
also highly resourceful or experts in their own area. So when they come together, it's the power of two or the power of four, the power of
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
working with, that topic of interest to the organization.
Yeah. And
Committees,
there you
an
go.
informal committee or a formal
Yeah.
committee. Mhm.
This one may be a good in the context of a theme dynamic too. Like, what is input paired with developer or input paired with learner?
Mhm.
Input paired with woo, right?
Yes.
In these settings to say, what does that look? What's the outcomes? And it may be what's the driver? Not that input can't drive itself. It can, right?
Mhm.
But it may be driven by, it may be, taken over or driven effectively by one of those other themes. So I think a
It's a
great
good one.
opportunity. Um, one of the interesting things I've seen this come out of my daughter. I think input's number one for her, and she can find anything on her phone in about 15 seconds. And I always she just thinks like everybody her age can do that, right? Yeah, this
Yes.
no, that's not true. She's able
Uh,
to. She archives she just knows where it's at. And just last night, with this obscure topic came up, and she
how
had a
fun.
video for it in 20 seconds. And I was like, that is just amazing. So I think about the power of that whenever, if we have any kind of family thing that I need to know about, I just go to her. Hey,
Yes.
you have a picture for this, right?
Stored somewhere.
Yeah. A system will ensure, like, as we think about this, she's got a system and it's her phone, whatever that works,
Mhm.
that you can find it again. Because what good is it if we can't find it, right? So
Yes.
these folks with high input. Before we look at the way this can get in the way, any other thoughts on success with input?
I think it's well said what you mentioned. Well said.
All right, well then let's go right in.
Yeah.
Sometimes these themes they hinder, their speed bumps, they get in the way a little bit. So how could this theme hinder our leadership of others?
They might share too much information and leave folks stuck in a bit of paralysis analysis as they're attempting to digest all the information that was just provided to them. And a leader with this theme, I think, also has to be cognizant of not asking too many questions, which could derail a meeting or a one-on-one or the strategy at hand.
In my leadership of the community, I have an opportunity. People ask me questions all the time, and of
Hmm.
course, I've got all this stuff, more experience than input, but I run that tendency sometimes too, and I've really had to pull back because the maximizer wants to drop about 50 links. Like,
Yes.
and while that's helpful, It's not. Like, they're
What
not
are
gonna.
your best links, Jim?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just this morning, someone was asking me some questions about Strengths Explorer, and they were like,
Mm.
"Hey, do you have?" And I'm like, "No, we don't, but we have this." And then I started, and I was like, "No, just 3." So I'm
There
trying to
you
limit
go.
myself, right? 3, but I love that
That's right.
maybe in our zeal, unintentional. We don't do this on
Mhm.
purpose, right? Unintentional zeal for all these things we have to say, "This is great, but you have this, and you have this, and
Mhm.
you have this, and you have" right? And we overwhelm. I love that.
Yes.
That's a call. Any other hindrances there as we think about, other ways, speed bumps or the way this might slow us down or get in the way?
Um, gosh, I was just thinking about the research where they show that when a person has too many choices, they'll just not make any choice. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
you just kind of extended where I was going with that hindrance by what you had just mentioned too of
Yeah.
sending 50 links. A big 3 is good, or sending only 3
Yeah.
is better for people to have that good, better, best selection process.
I'm gonna talk about that specifically when we talk about the Clifton Strengths for Sales report. We'll talk about that here in just a second, but
Uh-huh.
just a reminder, lots of resources for it. This is not the exhaustive resource for you on Clifton Strengths for Leaders, just we wanted to whet your
Just little
appetite for it.
sprinkles. Yep.
That's right. So if you haven't, make sure you get out there, purchase your Clifton Strengths for Leaders report. Lots of information. Top 10 is available for you on there with all these helps and hinders, as well as some action items for you to go forward on. Available for
Yes.
you now out on store.gallup.com. As a leader, how could I use now? I was thinking about this paired together with the Clifton Strengths for Manager
Ooh,
report that came out last year. How might I
yes.
put those two together for greater success?
I love this because going back to what your daughter does, what I've seen happen with people that have a lot to manage, whether it's people or projects, is they compartmentalize those responsibilities or the people and projects they have, because they tend to know the smartphone apps or the computer programs or the calendar system that allows them to store and manage their day to day responsibilities in a way that is very efficient for them.
Mm,
I think that's what helps them continue to manage and be a great manager of people
yeah,
or projects
yeah,
is compartmentalizing and feeling very organized
yeah.
in everything that's floating around in their head or, on a computer.
I like to think of it. I'm going to collect some information that's going to help people today. Like,
Mhm.
what can I be doing today to be more productive? And then what types of things, resources can I have for my followers for the future? Like
Yes.
what might they want to be thinking about out in the
Yes.
future, what might be inspirational for them for the future? We're coming around
Yes.
as we record this. It's middle of November of 2022. It's going to be January 1st, and we're going to be talking about goals again, right? And I think
Mhm.
there's those leaders, individuals with high input, have the ability to bring all those resources. We talk about goals and goal setting,
Yes.
right? I think about how cool that would
Yes.
be. Let's talk about the Clifton Strengths for Sales report and this leaders report. When we think about putting those
Mhm.
two together, how could that help us?
Because they have a knack for gathering information, a leader with high input can leverage what they've learned about outside competitors or what customers in the market need, what their employees need, and then they can really shape products, services, outcomes, or offerings based on that information gathering.
Yeah, that collective intelligence, that
Oh, that's
market
a good phrase
analysis.
for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was gonna mention. You beat me to it. I
Yes.
was hoping you wouldn't have that, but you did. It was
Market
super awesome.
analysis, customer
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah, and
Yes.
collecting that stuff from the market, like, "Hey, this is actually what the market's asking for. This is actually
Yes.
what's out there and what's available." I would think in the Clifton Strengths space, we have all these other assessments, Myers-Briggs and,
Mhm.
the like that are out there. And we get comparison questions all the time. By the way, if you go to
Mhm.
gallup.com, search comparison or strengths comparisons, you get a list of them that are
It's
there.
there.
For someone with input, this could be a great exercise to say, "Hey, how do all these other assessments compare to
Mhm.
Clifton Strengths?" That'd be a great input exercise, right? Of thinking from a collective intelligence standpoint in an organization that may help shape market pricing or
Yes.
the not that I'm saying this from actual experience because we've actually done this, right? What things cost, what we're providing, what are the reports are available, some of those kinds of things, right? Just thinking through that. someone who has high input or a leader with a high input would be able to do that and do that pretty well and enjoy that process. Not fun for me. 15 minutes, I'm done. Like, okay,
Same.
what's next?
Love to give that to somebody else.
What is next? Well, those reports are available as well if you want to go through this exercise. I've been spending some time looking at those reports together. In fact, I'm going to take all three of them and do this analysis like we're doing now for Maximizer for me. I told you that in the pre-show. That may be a great opportunity for me to learn and grow, and maybe for you as well around input. That might be, if you have high input, or even if you don't, maybe a great exercise if it's in your top 10 to throw those three together. They're available on the store.gallup.com if you want to check that out. Jaclynn, any other final thoughts before I wrap this up?
Well, it is the end of the year, to your point, and so those high in input are great with resources. For some, this is the time of year where it's time to look at your benefits again. I know we're going through our benefits program right now. There might be some programs at the start of the year for folks focused on well-being, but what a great time to have high input, to be able to gather what's needed within the organization that employees are interested in and share with them what those resources are. A lot of times employees don't know what is out there, but there's always that one person in the company, Phil, that knows, oh, we have this financial resource and this physical resource and this community resource, or let me help walk you through your benefits program. So whatever it is you're hearing from the crowd, from the followership, now's a great time of year to rally up the troops, rally up the resources, and send it over to them.
To help us knuckleheads, this guy included right here, of like, what do I do? Where's everything at? And they're like, I told, our poor benefits people are like, I've told you like 3 times. And you're like, I know, but I forgot already. How do I do this? Right?
Where is it? What website? Yes.
Know,
Input. Exactly. You are the guide. You're the guiding
light. We appreciate you. Well, with that, speaking of input, we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available. If you don't have it, or if you do, you can head out to gallup.com/CliftonStrengths, log in, hit the menu in the upper left, and go to the resources tab. In our resources section, search by this theme. You'll see everything we've done around input. It's available. All the seasons of Theme Thursday, the Clifton Strengths podcast are there now, and a great opportunity to get all the resources all in one place. Whether you have it or not, it'll be a useful tool for you. Stay up to date with all the webcasts by following us, gallup.eventbrite.com. Join us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths, and we really want to thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed it, share it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, whether you're listening to the audio or the video on YouTube. And we want to thank you for coming out. If you're listening live, stay around. We'll do some post-show analysis. Again, one of the benefits to coming out live. Thanks for coming out today. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.